Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. So today I wanted to talk about Marvel's Avengers because the game is approaching very closely. And initially when the beta of the game came out, closed betas, open betas, there was a lot of negative attention around the game. And I felt like it wasn't really fair because the game basically gave the opportunity for everybody to try, out the game and figure out exactly what it was. I think some people just had their expectations kind of crossed against the true nature of the game. They thought it was going to be perhaps some sort of an old school Arkham style game. And then guess what? It's kind of like a, games as a service model and all of that stuff. Now, what's really interesting is a lot of the fans who pretty much were very harsh on this game were DC fans. Now, I'm a DC fan, so I'm going to be the first to say it. At first, I did think that this game was going to be somewhat of a, Arkham style game. But as I did my research before even the beta came out, I knew exactly what we were going on. I knew what we were going for. I knew exactly what the game was going to turn out to be. And so I went into the game going, if this is what the game wants to be, then I think it's going to attain and achieve that with ease, because it's not trying to be something else. It's trying to be a game like Destiny, or you can say maybe slightly Division, or somewhat of a Borderlands kind of mix that has gear, loot, and all of that. Well, guess what's happening right now with the DC community, with Gotham Knights, which is the new game from Warner Brothers Montreal that they are about to release hopefully next year. We're seeing that that game is going to have somewhat of those similar RPG aspects that you bring to the table with the multiplayer side, and even the possibility of even extending the world, which is what Marvel Avengers is doing, but it's doing in a very different way close to Destiny. Please note, I always have to give these caveats. I am not comparing both of them. I'm just saying it was kind of surprising to a lot of fans to see that many video game companies are going this direction. And there's a reason for that. I usually talk about kind of the big boy side of these things, because you got to pay developers, you got to make money for the publisher. And even Warner Brothers Games Montreal is under Warner Brothers Media Interactive, and they're a little strapped for cash right now. So it makes a lot of sense that they would try to at least implement these systems in order for them to be able to have a game that provides, yes, a lot of gameplay and the possibility of monetization. And when I say a lot of gameplay, I'm talking a big open world, as confirmed right now by Patrick Redding in an IGN article. It's going to be one open world, most likely a living world system. When I say a living world system, a system that allows for you to be able to engage with different aspects of the game, enemy NPCs, friendly NPCs, NPCs that need help, and all that stuff. But Patrick Redding did mention that the game wasn't going to lock you into this grid where you felt like you had to do specific tasks to progress. You had somewhat of a free flow of approaching the game, so which is really nice, because I've made some videos comparing this game to having a lot of Ubisoft influences, and I didn't really think much about it, but until I realized that Patrick Redding spent almost a decade at 2 different Ubisoft studios working intensively with serious and big Ubisoft titles. A lot of best practices can be seen in the way this game will be implemented. But I do know from the games that he has directed, we definitely will be getting a solid product. I mean, think Splinter Cell Blacklist. If that's the game that, whatever it is you play, if you don't play that game, at least listen to the people who've played that game and see the amount of quality that was brought to the table when that game was actually produced and even published. So if anything, we're going to be seeing quality nonetheless. But then you come to the games as a service side. When questioned on the IGN interview if the game was going to be a games as a service, he kind of did not give too much of a very clear statement, because right now everybody knows that games as a service is not the most favorable thing that gamers want to hear. And honestly, this Gotham Knights game is not really a games as a service, but Marvel's Avengers actually is strongly a games as a service game. But there are elements that do, kind of say, okay, if Gotham Knights is going to decide to go games as a service at any time, any day, it seems like the game is set up to do that. So until we see the game, I don't know if that statement, is one that we can confirm right now. People would have to kind of judge for themselves and eventually see what's going on. But it brings me full circle back to Marvel's Avengers, in my opinion, does not seem to be such a bad game. It was made fun of, it was ragged on like this was the worst thing that could ever happen, but the game knows exactly what it wants to achieve and is not trying to hide it. Some people have said this feels like a mobile game and all this stuff, and I go back and say, I don't think this game is like a mobile game. This game will have its elements. Yes, Sony started to play some weird, kinds of hardball, and Square Enix and Sony seem to be friends on the day that there's money on the table, because Square Enix also went the Xbox route with Tomb Raider. So it's not like, Sony is kind of the, the bad guy every day, but, gaming companies and publishers and even console makers are all fighting and vying for your wallet in different ways. And so this is the result, and this is the end game of what we're seeing with the exclusives. But nonetheless, if you look at the game for what it is, the game seems to achieve exactly what it wants to achieve. And I think the game's going to do well. For those who, believe otherwise, I would say, especially now that Gotham Knights has now been announced to come out in 2021, it just is going to give Marvel's Avengers a lot of free reign to be able to just extend itself and gain traction for the months that we're waiting for Gotham Knights. But at the end of the day, comic fans will still, engage in comic book properties, whether they want to or they can choose not to. That's fine. But from a gaming scene, I think I'll be giving the game a try. I'll be covering some of its content on this channel. I'm already covering some of it on my other channel. You should see a playlist here on the Video Game Fight School channel that shows a lot of the coverage. And I'll start putting some videos on it and just talking about it in general. And if you're, on board, let me know in the comment section. You can subscribe to the channel, and we're going to just jump along and, and explore the world of Avengers, I guess. Can you imagine a DC fan getting into the world of Avengers? Well, I guess that's Warner Brothers' fault. They're the ones that have starved their audience for, probably a total now of 7 years, and we're going to be seeing the game next year. So, I mean, we're willing to wait, but it's nice to have something to keep you busy, something to keep you, occupied, and something that can keep you entertained in regard to a superhero game as you wait. And plus, it's a very unique and dynamic superhero game. It's not limited to the amount of characters that you saw in Gotham Knights. It's going to have additional characters added to it, and most likely going to have story aspects and more bad guys and more bosses. So Marvel's Avengers seems like it's going to be a huge game, and I see no reason why it needs to be getting ragged on. I think the game needs to be judged on how it executes exactly what it wants to execute, and not how people think it should have been executed, if you get what I mean. But these are just my thoughts, and these are my opinions. I guess that's pretty much it for me. Thank you so much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys a lot, and hopefully we'll see in another video. Peace out.